You ready?
Watch out.
Help me. Did that scare the shit out of you?
Not another sleuth.
Did that scare the shit out of you?
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's March 21st, 2024. We have some cases to discuss. Some I have spoken on a lot. And this one, Samantha Sperry, is a cold case from 2018 that was brought to my attention that I think we need to bring up and be aware of because it's totally solvable, in my opinion. It's kind of like the one from Georgia that I covered a couple months back, the woman who became pregnant with a police officer's child, and then somehow she became murdered. It's very similar, but not with the pregnancy thing. So we're going to get into that. Please like and share it after this so that we can get that message out, because I think the family has, obviously they've been waiting too long, but they're becoming more angry as the time goes by, especially with police. So let me say hi to everybody. It has been quite the, let's say, drama for 3 weeks. I mean, it's always been dramatic on this platform, but I mean, it really ramped up the last 3 weeks, and people are becoming truth tellers and light seekers all of a sudden. Now, if that's from the darkness or truly from their soul, I don't know, but we'll see, right? We'll see how that goes. Hello, Mr. Eve. Please remember to be respectful in the chat. Yes. Hey, Turtle Dove, good to see you. Old school Grandma Brooke in the house. I wonder who is sus this week on the mean streets. Oh, everybody. Oh, it's wild. Hey, Nene. Now watch me whip. Good to see you, Irish. Welcome in. Nico, good to see you, hun. Matthew is silly as fuck. Oh, damn. Intro is crispy. Thank you. I worked hard on it. And you know what? It was copyright free until I put it on YouTube. And now all of a sudden I'm getting these notifications saying that the creator has now owns the rights. And I'm like, you would say that. So I'm going to have to figure that out. But we'll work through it. Always the devil. Chris is Satan in the flesh, y'all. Apparently, depending on the day, she's either telling the truth or not, if they're upset with her or not. You know what I mean? Flip-flopping. Hey, Jeep Girl, good to see you. And if you're watching the replay, go ahead and hit that like button. Glad you're here. And let's get into the nitty-gritty. You think it's funny over there, Satana? I'm going to start calling you Satana. I'm just kidding. So let's get into Michael Vaughan, because I haven't made any videos, haven't done much of anything lately, and I'm sorry about that, but it's cray-cray. Hey, Six Up, good to see you. And I have been doing a lot of going back to the beginning, which I already have videos on, so it's silly to do that again unless there's something that I think is worth mentioning, which I'm still getting the content together. Especially with somebody saying at the very beginning that they found it interesting when JD Huff states in the first presser, or maybe it was just the first release before the presser, look back into the areas in your home backyard where kids can crawl into. It was interesting that he said, you never know if they will want come back into your yard. Like, you never know if they came into your backyard without you knowing after searching. And I thought, oh, that is a very interesting thought. Or it could be just common sense. Maybe he was somewhere else, didn't go into anybody's backyard, and then ended up there stuck. So that's just where I'm at right now. But it's very interesting now that we know there was an excavation for Michael Vaughan, right? Makes sense to kind of look into it a little more. The biggest thing that I want to talk about with Michael Vaughan, and it's going to be brief. First of all, we don't have any updates from anyone. Prosecutor is not going to update us, Mr. Mike Duke, because they probably don't have much. I don't know if grand jury has finished. I don't know anything. But I do know in the commissioners meeting, Miss Kelso, who was the ex prosecutor back in the day for Payette County, said, we want an update. We want an update. So you're going to be on the docket. Bring your receipts or not, but let us know something. And I'm wondering once those, let me check and see if that has been done, because I haven't done that yet. Little Eve's has been great, of course. But baby Eve is teething and also great. So my mind is scrambled until these teefies pop out, all of them. So he has a bottom two, but the two beside them are trying to show themselves. And you know how that is a long and tedious and painful task for both baby and mom and dad. And brother too. So give me just a second and let me look that up. As I always say, get involved in your local town meetings, commissioners meetings, because there's a lot of details that you wouldn't think you would need to know, but you do. Where are your tax dollars being spent? What's going on? Why do they need, for instance, why does my town in the district that I'm in need this $1.2 million whatever when we have two that are empty and vacant from COVID? You know what I mean? So that would be good to be involved in, because that money could be spent elsewhere. It's just my, logic, right? So definitely get involved in your community and what they're doing. The leaders in your community, it is important. All right. So they're always 1 week behind. Yeah. And I don't think it's come out yet. So the latest is March 4th. Okay. They released it on the 12th. What are y'all hiding? Payette County. I want to know. Let me do a date range. Sometimes they are just really behind posting these things. They're 2 weeks behind now. What did you say? They knew Eve was on it and I was going to expose them. Just kidding. Because honestly, the commissioners, you could go into an executive session for whatever reason. You just have to mention it on the paperwork and they can talk behind the scenes. So I don't know. Maybe it's quarter end coming up and they need some more time. Deputy. Okay, legal matters. All right, legal matters. What say you? Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Sirachek updated the board on communication sent to the owner of a property where gravel was being hauled. He had no other information to report. Okay. Nothing there. Juvenile Justice Report. That's interesting. Very interesting. See, these are the things that you could keep up to date with your community. You could see who gets alcohol beverage catering permits if you like. I mean, whatever you fancy knowing. Don't need that. Nothing. Nothing. So I guess we will find out, or I will let you know if there's anything that Mike Duke needs to update Fayette County about, specifically about big murder cases. There was a video that I put out about them using funds to increase the Indigent Public Defenders Fund, where specific lawyers that are approved in certain districts can help those who can't afford an attorney with things like the death penalty and whatnot. So that was increased. Witness cross-examination, professionals, all that stuff. So there is stuff going on. We don't know exactly what, but it does seem like something is in motion. Hey, Bugsy, good to see you, love. It really is 6 up, and that is important for you to know what your laws are and what state, what laws are in certain states if you want to know something that might affect you where you are. It just depends. Hey there. Hold on 1 second. I forgot to shut my door. My little one came in like, "What's up, Mom? Howdy." They went to get dinner, and I was like, "Oh, snap. Sorry about that." Yep, somebody stepped into the studio. That's okay. It was good to see him anyway. So, yeah, get involved in your local leaders. I cannot stress that enough. The last thing that I want to talk about is the Albertsons location of Stacey Wandra. I find it very interesting that when he showed his the data, the screen recording, that he was located at the park and actually right next to the building at Albertsons. I don't know if I went live on this before, but I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So we all know that Brandy was at work that day. She went to work at about noon and got the call from Tyler Vaughan about Michael missing at 7:05. Right? So another piece of information that people forget, or maybe not even know or aware about, is that her break time was around 4. I think it was her lunch break. And I don't know if she went off, outside of Albertsons or went to go smoke somewhere else or smoke it. I don't know. But there has been somebody that worked there who has spoke out, a few people that work there that have spoken out about their experience and what they've seen. Oh, it's okay, Mr. E. Don't worry about it. It was good to see him. He's so cute. Get your snacks. Right. Well, and there's a camera. Okay. It's just wild to me. So one of his locations at, let me pull it up actually. 1 second. Definitely right beside Albertsons. Now, I was wrong, 100% wrong on thinking that he was at the A&W because the bricks were a little similar. Definitely didn't look hard enough, obviously. So he is definitely parked right here somewhere for sure, at least on this side of the building. And I feel like the picture that I have he was in the passenger seat, which I just kind of thought maybe it's just the angle or it flipped or something. I don't know. But no, I think he definitely is in the passenger seat. Let me pull it up real quick. Mm-mm. The other ping, it does say estimated location. And again, I think that it's pretty accurate, at least within a little bit of a variance, because his iCloud did upload that photo. Okay. And so I would trust that. And he's accessing this again, not from the iCloud or the phone that he had, because it's with law enforcement. He's accessing it through his Google Photos. So I would be secure in the fact that it's around that area. Now, definitely it's here, right here. And also, here's that A&W, which is right down the street. Not far at all. Let me go to satellite. Let's go to the park. At 3:47, he's right here in the middle of the road, right here somewhere. But at 3:33 to 37 or some change, he's in the middle of the park. This Kiwanis Park, right? A lot of people already knew this. Whatever. I did not obviously have a chance to because, bangs, the drama, the purple drama, they did not want me to really look into it. I think they were like, oh, we're going to take this from her. And they tried and failed. Suckers. Okay, so this is the Kiwanis Park. So right about here is where they have, or where Stacey Wander is alleged to be from the recording that I got. Okay. Yeah, Lenny, it's 5,000 people in Fruitland. And this is Payette. But so he's here at the beginning, right? He ends up, let me just pull this up again on this map. So he's roughly about here. Okay. He ends up over here, right beside where you get your pharmaceuticals. There is a camera that points directly down. All right. Right here, there's a camera that points down right here. So definitely law enforcement probably looked at those and all that good stuff. My question is why did he go to the Kiwanis Park first? Was that part of one of the calls that he got from Sarah Wandra when he said that there was a few calls for taxiing? One was obviously from Ontario, Oregon to Boise Airport, and then got another call. We don't know what the actual truth is or not, but I'm sure law enforcement can handle that business, right? Hey, Reese, good to see you. So it's just very strange to me, okay, that he would be around Kiwanis Park, let's say 30 minutes before break time, lunchtime. I'm sure there's witnesses that have either overheard or was listening or at least saw Brandy call Tyler to check on the kids for her lunch break. That's what she told Chris Madonna. She said that she called. Everybody was in their phones, and Michael was sitting on the couch on his Switch, which is also what he was doing the last time Tyler saw him. It's just something that I can't let go, and I'm sure law enforcement has thought of this. I would hope. What are some of the things that, like, he was right there. You know what I mean? Either if Stacey and maybe someone who was driving with him potentially, or one of whoever he picked up needed to go to the Albertsons to get some pharmaceuticals. I don't know. All I'm saying is there has to be something, because coincidences are very rare for me in these cases, and I would like to know that. And I would like to know why Stacey Wander didn't correct me when I said he was at the A&W. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he forgot. I don't know. I just think it's interesting, and I'm not going to let that go until there's answers, or at least until maybe there is something that can come of it, because I do feel like it's important. Yet his sister never, yeah, I mean, it's strange, but it's not impossible, but it is strange, right? I would think that she would have seen him. And again, we don't know what brothers saw. Back on the interview with Purple a while back, when her name was literally just Purple at one point. I don't know if that was the Mean Girls, whatever. The interview that they did, she was like, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about older brother and what he's been through. He's been through the ringer. Stop. But sister, definitely 2 interviews, I believe, on her panel, or at least hers, and maybe one on Critters. Not remembering correctly, I don't think. But either way, she explains her side of the things, right? Somewhat. So it'd be very interesting to know, that whole 4:00 check-in call time, if that's jiving, right? Taxi cab breaks in areas waiting for another caller, eating maybe, right? I mean, God, who knows? I don't know what I was doing on July 27th, 2021. I'd have to go look at my phone. I'd have to go look at, receipts, bank statements, something that tells me, oh, yeah, okay. Other than that, if you just ask me with nothing, like if I was in prison sitting there with nothing, I'd be like, beats me, bro. Don't know. Can't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone 2 years ago. Try again. Give me something I can work with. Which is when they slapped down that photo of him at the Stacey Wander at the splash pad getting his snuff that he allegedly couldn't reach because it slid off and under his seat. So anyway, that is where I'm stuck at, that good old 3:00 time. I think it's important. I'm not going to let it go. I am not. All right. Next up, we have Karen Reed to spice up the evening, because your girl Eve can put you to sleep real quick with this voice. I want you to watch this little section. I'm going to update you real fast on the case. If you don't know the Karen Reed case, she was charged with her boyfriend John O'Keefe's murder. He was found on the lawn of a fellow Boston police officer. And then it just kind of gets really insane from there with Michael Proctor, a Massachusetts State Police. These people are all intertwined. There's like 8 to 11 people at the house. Witnesses get crazy. It's a long process. You can go watch it yourself. And I have not covered this case in its entirety because there's so many hands in the cookie jar with this one. Turtle Boy, LTL True Crime, The Glare, even Tracy, Chasing. So those people are doing a great job. I'm not going to step on anybody's toes. I've actually been enjoying this without having to cover it. Because it's just the bombshells and the craziness that happens in this case. I'd rather just watch it from the sidelines. I'm going to sit this one out. But I cannot help but share with you some funny moments, which my girl Pearl has been watching the Karen Reed case as well. And we both had a good conversation and a laugh about the recent court hearing. You're going to hear about some butt dials. This is what I'm going to get at. They're also going to talk about requesting phone data from Brian Higgins, an ATF agent, and Kevin Albert. Kevin Albert is a family member of Chris Albert, and
recall they're supposedly
where John O'Keefe was found. So It's been a long battle with, in my opinion, a very corrupt prosecutor's office. Morrissey is his name, the one that leads the Norfolk County Prosecutor's Office. Lunchbox Lally, but you'll see here in a minute, is a doofus, in my opinion, and doesn't know what he's doing. These people are under, or let me repeat this, or let me go back. The investigation of John O'Keefe is being investigated by Fed. Recently, it came out that Michael Proctor, the lead Massachusetts state policeman, is under that federal investigation for sure, like 100, okay? He is being looked at. One thing you'll hear is, surprisingly, this is really, really shocking to me, that there was some gifts being talked about once this is over, okay? Okay, you see what I'm saying? Once this is over, I'm going to get you a gift. And this said policeman says, get it for my wife. And you're like, oh, you dirty bastards. What? You're going to exchange gifts over this man's death and getting away with it potentially? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay. Okay. So let's get started. I just want you to listen to this. The butt dial is great.
For an order pursuant to Rule 17, seeking records.
Your Honor. With regard to this motion, Your Honor, Brian Albert was served with a subpoena to testify before a federal grand jury, and he begins reaching out for Brian Higgins. Brian Higgins testified to the federal grand jury that he stopped taking Brian Albert's calls. He stopped replying to Brian Albert's text messages. It's fair to
So Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, was at the house, right? So 2 days before the federal grand jury hearing, you're going to hear David Yannetti, Karen Reed's awesome defense attorney, speak on these two boneheads talking, and they are definitely not under the Fed investigation. However, they were testifying, or at least Brian Higgins. So just keep that in mind.
say that led to a panic in the Albert family. We learned that Brian Albert contacted his brother, Canton police officer Kevin Albert, to intervene.
I'm actually going to stop you there for 1 second. Mr. Lally, is Kevin Albert a Commonwealth witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
So a lot of people are related in this law enforcement community here that is either a witness, a family member of a witness, or someone who is potentially under the federal investigation, because the feds don't always tell you exactly who is and who is not under the gun. They typically never say something. But however, in this case, it had to be known and had to be told that Michael Proctor, state policeman, is in fact under federal investigation.
Now, bear in mind, Your Honor, that the Canton police were supposedly conflicted out of this case at that point.
So I want to know where that is in the record before me, because I think you know, as Massachusetts counsel, that the state police have jurisdiction over homicides, correct?
Scary business, especially after hearing, that Idaho state policeman who murdered his wife recently and tried to skedaddle out of town. Yikes. I don't know. Maybe I always thought state police were more trustworthy than your local PD. It doesn't matter. To me, corruption can go anywhere at any time. And it doesn't mean a hill of beans on who's state or local. It doesn't. Corruption can lie anywhere.
Oh, they do, yes.
So where is it in the record that they were conflicted out?
Those are in reports that the prosecution provided to us. Mr. Lally also told me that orally early on in this.
Okay, so I need those reports. I need that reference.
Okay, we're happy to provide that, Judge.
Okay, so I'd like it by tomorrow morning.
That's fine. You said to Higgins, and I quote, jury about the fact in their department. So how can they conduct an investigation? So the Canton police had a conflict precisely because Kevin Albert is an officer in their department. So how can they conduct an investigation which includes the brother of one of their officers?
Aha. So when everybody was saying early in the Karen Reed case, how could you say it's corrupt just because they know each other? Well, it's beyond just knowing each other. It's relationships, familial, friendships that stem way in the past, high school days. You know what I mean? Graduation, taking trips, taking vacations. This isn't just, a passerby kind of thing or, hey, you babysat my kid once or twice. These are people that are very integrated in each other's lives.
Stands to reason they can't. They appeared to recognize that. Yet Chief Berkowitz is talking to witnesses in this case, and Kevin Albert himself inserted himself into this case. Brian Albert testified to the federal grand jury about the fact that after Brian Albert received a federal grand jury subpoena, Kevin Albert contacted Brian Higgins. Kevin Albert said to Higgins, and I quote, "Look, you went off the grid and Brian doesn't understand. You haven't called him, you haven't checked in on him since these subpoenas go out. Everyone got a subpoena but you."
Whoops. There is some fear brewing in the McAlbert camp. Because again, Brian Higgins is an ATF agent, but he did not get a subpoena. He basically, he is not under the gun here. And Kevin Albert saying, why aren't you? Maybe Chris Albert is, right? Maybe Brian Albert is, which I don't think Brian Albert is, but under the Fed investigation. But, they're getting scared. So they're trying to find out who maybe flipped potentially, said a little too much.
Those were Kevin Albert's words to Brian Higgins. And, Your Honor, there's only one way to interpret that. Brian Albert was panicked that Brian Higgins had flipped on him. Brian Albert enlists his Canton police officer brother to contact Higgins to try and find out if that was the case. And it wasn't just text messages between them. After first testifying that he didn't want to talk to Kevin Albert about the investigation, Brian Higgins later admitted that before he testified before the federal grand jury on June 1st of 2023, Higgins and Kevin Albert talked on the phone for a good 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Keep that in mind with what you're about to hear because it makes it so funny. So very funny. But this was before the June 2023 grand jury hearing.
That was 2 days before he testified before the federal grand jury. Before he testifies to the feds, Brian Higgins is conferring with Kevin Albert, who's supposedly conflicted out of the case. So, my goodness, with all the allegations of witness intimidation thrown around by this DA's office and special prosecutors they appoint, why has Kevin Albert never been investigated for witness intimidation? And for that matter, why has Brian Albert never been investigated? But as you ponder those questions, please realize, Your Honor, we're not asking for much here. We're only asking for relevant phone records. We're asking for contact between Kevin Albert and Higgins and Brian Albert. We're asking for contact that violates the self-recusal of the Scranton Police Department from this investigation. Contact which impeaches them, contact which is relevant to their motives in this case. It impeaches the investigation. We are entitled to explore whether this investigation was conducted correctly and ethically.
So, as my mama always used to tell me, if you don't have anything to hide, you don't worry about what's not being said. Basically, you only shut your mouth when there's something to worry about, right? When it comes to being asked to help with something. And that's always rang true for me when someone keeps quiet, head down, bucks the system, there's something usually more to it, or they're scared to speak on it because someone else is that they know. It's just the facts. So, why is the Canton Police Department being hush hush? Are they told to be candid because there's more to it? Because again, Michael Proctor, state police, he is getting blasted, roasted and toasted on both sides, and he is the target of the Fed investigation. So, did someone, as a whole department, say, everybody shut the hell up? We got this, and we're going to sing like canaries against the Massachusetts State Police? Maybe.
And we're entitled to explore whether improper influence was put upon witnesses by the Alberts. Without this testimony, this federal testimony from Higgins.
So, there you go. Witness intimidation. That's the problem here, not the federal investigation. You know, they want to get Turtle Boy for every little thing he asks as a reporter. But these people think it's okay to literally threaten people, like Chris Albert threatening a witness's father from testifying. These people are entitled as fuck.
And without the federal investigation, we never would have known of Kevin Albert's involvement here. But now we do. And the Commonwealth does. Why aren't they curious about what was said and why? They've announced an objection to this motion. Why are they fighting our quest to get exculpatory evidence? We need this evidence, these phone records, in admissible form. That's why we're filing this Rule 17 motion. We have more than met the requirements of Lampron. The records are relevant because they tend to show a cover-up. They are relevant because they show a Canton police officer inserting himself into a case in which his department was conflicted out precisely because he was an officer there. They're relevant because they impeach the credibility of Commonwealth witnesses who deny that they are a part of a conspiracy, yet the phone records tend to show they were conspiring together.
There you go.
We cannot get these records any other way. We cannot effectively prepare for trial without these witnesses.
So you testified as to their
So, David Yannetti pretty much says the only way that we're going to be able to get these records is through the court here, not from the federal investigation, because they are not supposed to be intertwined with each other. Yeah, but David Yannetti says it's a cover up, bro. And I need all of the details because it's exculpatory evidence to free Karen Reed. That's the whole point. That's his job. But see, the red tape and the bureaucracy and the bullshit between these two entities, there's some special interest going on, I believe, methinks, that they still want Karen Reed to go to trial, even though they know that she's probably not guilty and there's evidence to prove that, right? There's some special interest as to why that's still going on. Because at this point, in my opinion, free Karen Reed, drop the freaking charges, you know? But there's something more going on that I think David Yannetti has to prove beyond doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, that there's corruption. I think that might be the hiccup, but I'm not a lawyer.
relevancy. How are they evidentiary?
They're evidentiary because they are both relevant and material, and if they're provided by the providers with an appropriate affidavit from a keeper of records, they're admissible. The Commonwealth could have gotten these records at any point, but they chose not to. And they have fought our efforts to get all phone records. Thank goodness another law enforcement agency stepped in and did the job that the DA's office should have done but did not. We need these records. Going to trial without them would violate my client's rights to exculpatory evidence. It would violate her due process rights. And finally, to the extent that this court previously ruled that our requests for phone records were a fishing expedition, nobody can claim that anymore with a straight face. We now have testimony that these records exist, that calls exist, that text messages exist. As Mr. Lally said in the last hearing, phones do not lie. These phone records do not lie. We need them, and we ask the court to order them.
All right, it looks like you're asking the parties themselves to bring these in, though.
To the extent that they have them, that's accurate, Your Honor. We're also asking for their phone providers to provide them as well.
They're two separately filed motions, right, to deliver whatever records, right?
Correct.
I'm going to say I feel horrible for this woman. I feel absolutely horrible for her. However, she is doing something and she's witnessing something that needed to happen years and years and years ago. You can ask anybody from Massachusetts that isn't involved, deeply involved in law enforcement, whether it be familial or friendly, that there has been a corruption problem, especially with the Boston police and state police and certain local levels for a very long time. Okay. And her case is exposing that finally, and also bringing up other cases of alleged corruption of, for instance, the murdered girl who was having an affair with a cop, right? She became pregnant and now she's dead, right? These things happen. Corruption happens a lot more than you think. And you'll always hear, Jennifer Coffindaffer, who is daft bare minimum right now with this case. We trust our law enforcement, always trust until verified. And it's like, how can you say that when these people control and are the authority of these things? Question everything. Everything. That's why I say get involved in your local community and your leaders, because these things need to be addressed before it becomes a 20, 30-year long corruption, bullying, and murder cover-up.
Correct. And I would note that the providers are on the second motion, except
But
for
that's three different people or one different person on this.
one different person. So we have Higgins and we have Brian Albert on
It
the
is.
first motion. We have Higgins and we have Brian Albert on the second motion. Your Honor.
And then I do see Mr. Henning here. I don't know if he wants to speak or not, but I'm going to hear from Mr. Come forward. And I don't know who counsel
I'm going to skip
is
Lally
for
because
Mr.
he
Higgins,
sucks.
But if he or she's here, do you want to be heard as well, sir? Great. So I'll hear you after I hear from Mr. Henning.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
So those lawyers are just basically saying we will comply with the court's orders if you can give us the motion, the decision, right? And they'll comply with whatever, but they don't feel like it's necessary because, first of all, the prosecution did not, they didn't do their part like they always fail to do with giving whatever they were requested to these lawyers. So this is Brian Higgins' lawyer, and I think Kevin Albert's lawyer. So we're going to skip that. Let's just go to David Yannetti.
Mr. Lally, you didn't want to add anything, did you?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So this did not provide, or you didn't comply with my order and providing the motions and supporting affidavits on this as well to the third party
Wow, Lenny.
record holders and their lawyers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the council will receive copies of this as well and be permitted to argue now and supplement it. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. As
For
I
sure.
previously mentioned, Brian Higgins did testify before the federal grand jury. And at that time, he was specifically asked if on January 29th of 2022, he made any phone calls when he got home. He said that he did not. He testified that he lived alone. He testified that he was alone that night. He testified there was nobody else in his bedroom. He testified that when he went to bed, he placed his phone on the bedside table. After making those admissions, he was confronted by a federal prosecutor with his phone records. Those records revealed that Brian Albert called Brian Higgins at 2:22 in the morning on January 29.
Now, House Long to Die in Cold, which was Googled by Jennifer McCabe, was at 2:27. Oh, ruh-roh. So 5 minutes after their little conversation, she Googles How Long to Die in the Cold. That's how John O'Keefe died.
Those records reveal, moreover, that 17 seconds later, Brian Higgins called Brian Albert back, and that call lasted for 22 seconds. Now, when he was first confronted, Brian Higgins first tried to claim that it had to have been a butt dial. That term.
And here's where it gets hilarious for me, even though it's not funny. Okay, this is a murder of a Boston police officer, and his girlfriend is being framed, in my opinion. But damn, we're gonna say it's a butt dial. That's what the explanation is going to be.
Butt dial is used by many of the Commonwealth's witnesses to explain the many calls between them and among them. And
Yes,
I've never seen a case where there's been
loosey-goosey.
so many butt dials, to be frank. But
Didn't she have Brian Albert's contact information deleted? Like she took a screenshot of Brian Albert, I think it's Brian, and deleted it. And I think that this was maybe for or given to Brian Higgins. That's what I think. Maybe.
Mr. Higgins was already locked in. He already testified his phone was on the bedside table. His butt was in the bed, the phone was in the table. The two could not have met, Your Honor. There was no possibility of a butt dial.
Let's listen to that one more again. His butt and the phone could not have happened.
It's used by many of the Commonwealth's witnesses to explain the many calls between them and among them. And I've never seen a case where there have been so many butt dials, to be frank. But Mr. Higgins was already locked in. He already testified his phone was on the bedside table. His butt was in the bed, the phone was in the table. The two could not have met, Your Honor. There was no possibility of a butt dial. And then Higgins...
They were not in the vicinity of each other.
admitted that. And that wasn't Mr. Higgins leaving Brian Albert a voicemail. He also admitted under oath that the toll records would have reflected a voicemail if they went to voicemail. He admitted that to call Brian Albert back, he would have had to first reach for his phone, then unlock it with the passcode or Face ID. Then he would have to press on Brian Albert's number. And that
was my point on Twitter today when I said, look, the Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, or Kevin Albert, that whole debauchery, I call bullshit, because you would have had to had his contact information either up or in your phone, in your contacts, readily available to call. Okay. And a lot of people disagree with me. And some troll posted, I do it twice a month. And I'm like, oh no, you really need to work on that, because I only do it twice a year. Okay. And it's usually some big 18-minute long voicemail that I didn't know about right until later, because I just was that unaware of this butt dial. And it's usually somebody that I am in contact with frequently. Okay. So I just don't buy a thing of it. And there is no coincidences around a murder case. Very rarely is there any? And I don't believe this is one where there's a butt dial. I forgot Jim McKay blames a call on a butt dial to John O'Keefe. That's right. Butt dials are rampant in Canton, Mass.
exactly what he did. And he testified that that was what he did. He also testified that nobody from the Commonwealth, not Trooper Proctor, not ADA Lally, no one has ever asked him about that phone call from Brian Alberts to Higgins, or the return phone call from Higgins to Albert lasting 22 seconds. Rather than get everyone's phone records, as this court knows, the Commonwealth has fought the defense at every turn in our quest to get the phone records. They've persuaded...
They also didn't think it was weird that Michael Proctor did a lot of things and said a lot of things and didn't do procedural things. I mean, this could have saved everybody a lot of grief.
This court that we were previously on a fishing expedition. To the extent the court once thought otherwise, it is clear this is no longer a fishing expedition. We do not have to go fishing to wonder anymore whether calls were made. We now know that someone who had been in that house when John O'Keefe arrived called the homeowner at 2:22 in the morning, 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found on the homeowner's lawn. We learned that neither party to that call ever revealed to police, investigators, or prosecutors that they connected by phone in those early morning hours. Just like Jennifer McCabe never revealed that at around the same time she was Googling, asking how long it took for someone to die in the cold, a search that the FBI confirms happened at 2:27 in the morning, again, about 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found. Now, for his part, Brian Albert also first tried to claim that his phone call to Brian Higgins at 2:22 in the morning was a butt dial. He said that he was awake and watching TV, but he was called back to the grand jury to testify a second time.
Oh, here we go. This is what gets juicy.
Brian Albert changed his testimony to say that at 2:22 in the morning, he and his wife were in bed in an intimate situation. He claimed that he had his phone with him in the bed. So now he's claiming that it was during that intimate situation with his wife that he supposedly butt-dialed Brian Higgins. He had no explanation, however, for how his phone picked up when Higgins called him back 17 seconds later. He had no explanation for the 22-second phone conversation that followed, and it's worth noting that Higgins testified he never heard any intimate noises on the other end of the line either. Brian Albert tried to maintain that he butt-dialed Higgins, but again, that would mean that his butt also answered the phone when Higgins called back, and it doesn't make any sense. Both men denied talking to each other despite being confronted with that mountain of evidence by federal prosecutors. But it wasn't just the January 29th, 2022 call.
He did not hear any relations on that phone call. I repeat, he did not hear any, relations on that phone call. Remind you of somebody? Didn't we have a president that said something similar to that once?
Calls between Higgins and Albert. Brian Higgins' phone records, we learned, reveal that Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz was involved in interacting with both men shortly after John O'Keefe's body was found. And again, recall, they're supposedly conflicted out of this case.
So there's just a question I have, and I'll let you continue, Mr. Yannetti, but regarding the dates. So the dates of the records you're seeking
January
for Brian
29th.
Albert, so January 29th to February 4th.
Or 4th or 5th, yes.
4th. That's what you're
That's
seeking.
fine. That's fine.
And for, all right, so go ahead. Thank you for answering that, and I'll hear you. Go ahead, continue.
Right. So as soon as John O'Keefe showed up deceased on Brian Albert's lawn, Canton Police decided it might not be a good idea for them to be involved in investigating this case. And by the way, I'm reminded when I sat down that District Attorney Morrissey announced that publicly. So we knew that early on.
Okay, so is that in his statement that I've had copies of?
It is not in the video statement that we moved to order so that both parties in this case can review them. Mr. Levy directed a question to Mr. Higgins in the grand jury where he asked about all of the back and forth between him and Brian Albert and Chief Berkowitz. Quote, you have a 3-minute call with Berkowitz at 7:22 in the morning. This is on January 29th.
Ooh.
Another call with him then you have a call with Brian Albert that afternoon for 12 minutes. Another call with him for 6 minutes. Another call for a minute. Then another call with Albert for 10 minutes. Then a call with Berkowitz for 4 minutes. Higgins spoke with Berkowitz on January 29th, someone who was conflicted out of the investigation 4 times. And then they spoke many additional times between January 29th and February 4.
But Higgins had nothing to do with the investigation, correct?
He was a witness in the investigation.
Boom. Bev was trying to throw off the mood and the vibe that David Yannetti owns all these people on. He was a witness, Miss Ma'am. The one, Turtle Boy over here, witness intimidates everybody and their mama for asking legit questions as a reporter. But we're going to allow this bananas? No. So I love this defense attorney. He nails it.
Okay, at that point,
The chief of police, who's supposedly...
I'm sorry, I just need to, so at that point you say he was a witness?
I'm sorry?
At that point, the point of the phone calls, he was a witness?
He said, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
he was in the home, Your Honor.
Okay.
He was not spoken to by investigators yet, but...
And why wasn't he? Why wasn't he? Because you failed. When you have to cover up a murder of a Boston police officer, in my opinion, allegedly, you miss a lot of little things. And you don't want people that could be involved in witness or testifying, especially people of this tenure in law enforcement. Less is more to them. But you know what? When you have a defense attorney like this and someone like Turtle Boy to expose the shit and the corruption that's obviously in front of people's faces if you look hard enough, that's what it takes sometimes.
Clearly, he's a witness. He was at the home that night. Now, recall that Chief Berkowitz supposedly found a piece of taillight on Brian Albert's lawn on February 4th, after that lawn had been searched by trained investigators and other police officers multiple times without finding it. But somehow, Chief Berkowitz was able to spot that piece of taillight while he was driving past the property from his moving vehicle. And the phone records show that Berkowitz called Higgins that very day to tell him about the discovery, and then Higgins calls Brian Albert to tell him. In a case where we are alleging as part of our defense that there is a third-party culprit, and at least some people are involved in a conspiracy to cover up the guilt of that third-party culprit or culprits, contact between co-conspirators could not be more relevant. Before the feds got involved, we fought for this information, but we were largely unsuccessful. Although we never had to prove that the phone records actually contained evidence of the conspiracy, that's something we couldn't do without having the records themselves. This court has previously ruled that it was all too speculative. Not anymore. Not now. Not after we know that the records exist. Not after we know they prove what we suspected that they would prove. We now know that those records will tell a story that could not be more relevant to this case and to our defense. And the problem, Your Honor, is we know the records are there. We have them in summary fashion, but we don't have them in admissible form. The feds have revealed that they exist, but they haven't released the actual records to us. They have them, we don't have them. That's why we're filing this Rule 17 motion. And again, we've more than met the requirements of Lampron. These records are relevant to our defense because they show suspicious contact between parties we allege to be in a conspiracy.
So he is absolutely right, accurate as usual. This is why he is filing this motion, because there's obviously something there, right? If the feds have them, they don't. You know, the corruption is showing its ugly head because obviously people that needed to be investigated weren't. Witnesses became witnesses because of the Fed investigation and the grand jury. Okay, he's right. And I love hearing Bev, the judge, breathing heavily because she knows that this is the beginning of the end. I would be nervous as shit too. This is why I believe there are special interests and always has been, which is why David Yannetti was kind of warning her, like, you might want to recuse yourself. Let's file this motion so you can get the hell off of this because you don't want this Biederman action. I'm going to provide later on. Do you want this or not? And she was like, I'll take it. Denied, motion denied. I'm not recusing myself because of my friendships with these folks. Now I think she's regretting that decision very intensely because her breathing is shaky this entire time. I have it sped up so you can't hear it, but if you just normal speed, she is scared shitless, in my opinion.
They're relevant because they show the Canton police chief inserting himself into a case when it was previously determined that he was conflicted out. They are relevant because they impeach the credibility of Commonwealth witnesses who denied talking to each other, yet have no explanation for these records, which again, do not lie. We cannot get the records any other way. We cannot effectively prepare for trial without these records. The Commonwealth could have gotten them, but they chose not to. They fought our efforts to get them. But again, thank God,
Whoopsie.
Another law enforcement agency stepped in and did what the DA should have done. Going to trial without these records would violate my client's due process rights. And finally, to the extent that this court previously ruled that our requests were a fishing expedition, we can't maintain that now with a straight face. We now have the receipts. It's confirmed we were never on a fishing expedition.
Boom. We have the receipts. We have the receipts. I mean, it's clear as day. He is nailing this judge and the Commonwealth so hard. It kind of feels nice to finally get that vindication. Because a lot of people at the beginning, especially Jen Coffindaffer and legal experts, there's no way. There's just no way. Do you know how absurd that is for a defense to say that corruption is the reason why Karen Reed is, innocent? Well, yeah. Yeah, that's very rare. And wouldn't that mean that you would probably need to take a listen and maybe give it a shot? Because look at what we have now. It's obvious what's going on, in my opinion. So can't wait to see everybody's reaction when Karen Reed is found innocent of these crimes and vindicated. A lot of people are probably going to stay off of Twitter and YouTube for a while because of their embarrassment. And I don't blame them. That's just my opinion. Moving on to the last, the finale, I guess, of this one's a cold case. And this one was brought to me by someone that I was speaking to recently about this cold case, Samantha Sperry. And I took a look at it and was very, it, I hate cases. I really do hate cases that are so solvable, that could totally give family peace and closure, but either there's some unknown reason, maybe some police not just wanting to handle it anymore, whatever the case may be. There's maybe some conflicting interests, small towns, it kind of sucks. You know, you don't want to put your homie's buddy's son in jail, whatever the case may be. But this case to me is very solvable. And I'm not sure why. So that's what I want to bring to everyone's attention. It's been covered a few times on YouTube. A few big creators have, but mostly small channels with like less than 1,000 views from years ago. So let me pull up that NBC News article that has a lot of detail. And then we're going to go to the Facebook page where the family speaks out. So Samantha Sperry is a mother of two. She's 25 years old. This was 2018. She was last seen on March 28, 2018 in Graves County, Kentucky. She lives in Murray, Kentucky, and didn't show up to her shift at McDonald's the next day at 9 p.m. or maybe 9 a.m., one of those. So, for many, Mother's Day is a day to celebrate their mom or mother figure. For others, the holiday can highlight a painful absence. This Mother's Day, Kim Jones had to talk to her 4-year-old niece, which was her daughter, about why her mom, Samantha Sperry, still isn't home. Heartbreaking, totally heartbreaking. That's what captured me because I have a 5-year-old. To put yourself in the shoes of a little one like that, and they still don't have closure. It's time. It's time. Okay. And she also has a young son. So, yeah. Come on, cops. What are you doing? So she was reportedly last seen in Graves County, Kentucky on the morning. And according to Graves County Chief Deputy Sheriff Vaughan Ramage, probably said that wrong. Authorities told Dateline that the last people to see the young mother alive were Ren Hendrickson, Samantha's boyfriend, and Ren's biological father, Dusty Holder. Let's go ahead and jump right on into that. It's a lot. So we're going to pause, and I'm going to bring up some background, okay? So the most recent on this guy, which is Dusty, Samantha's boyfriend's father. Okay. Looks really happy here. September 7th, 2023, he was arrested on a weapons charge after the sheriff's office says a search warrant uncovered 3 long guns in his home. He's a felon, which he's not supposed to have. He's 51 years old. Arrested after, damn you, ads. Okay, sorry. Deputies carried out a search warrant at his home on Mountain Ridge Road around 3:30 p.m. Thursday. They found meth and pipes used to smoke the drugs in the home, along with the guns. Sheriff's office says a child support warrant alleges he owes $12 grand, and he's $12 grand behind in child support payments. Wow. Does not make it easy on himself to have the police at his house at any time. Oh, wait, there's more. So, okay, so he was arrested, but before that, and we're not even at the son yet, okay? It gets really wild. Hold on. Pull up on my links. All right, 2019, a year after in what, 2-3 months, Sir Dusty Holder enters guilty pleas and will be sentenced to 6 years on the following charges. 2 counts of possession of a controlled substance, meth, Class D felonies. Tampering with physical evidence, possession of drug paraphernalia, enhanced, a Class D felony. So, he was a bad, bad boy. Bad, bad boy. And typically, I do not like to post these things because I personally, you know me, I do not like having to put people's stuff on blast from these Facebook posts. However, Samantha Sperry wants to be with her children and she can't. So you have to pick and choose your battles. I decided to battle this one today by exposing not only him, but what people in the comment section believe. He's a mathematician, says Brooke. Right. Y'all are liars, says Carla. I don't know what that means. More like 6 months. I do believe he only got 6 months. Or not 6 months, but his sentence was definitely shortened. That's for sure. Hopefully he will speak the truth. He needs to. At least they got him off the streets, and sometimes people brag about what they got away with in prison, and they put the nail in their own coffin. Facts. That's a fact, Jack. You get comfortable in those prison walls. You get tired and bored. Sometimes you get a little too comfy with your cellmate and you spill the beans. I hope someone who, if they have heard it, please contact law enforcement if you're out. Please. So, wow, Melissa says, actually, he wasn't found innocent because it never went to trial. They didn't find enough evidence to charge him, but time has a funny way of changing things. Interesting. Wow. People are saying, where is Sam, Dusty? He is still a person of interest, and you'll see why here in a minute. This person says, I went to high school with Samantha. We used to be good friends. This makes me sick that they would take a mom from her kids. So people are already saying him and his son, Mr. Hendrickson, is guilty of this, of harming Samantha. Confess to Samantha's disappearance and murder. Da-da-da-da. I hope his stupid hick ass decides to brag in jail. Offer him a bag of meth to tell where Samantha is. I mean, people are convinced. Maybe you will be too. So this is the then boyfriend, Mr. Hendrickson. Rhea, I think. Rhea. So basically, he got put in the prison system. I hope he's not smuggling drugs in his prison system in Kentucky. That would be bad. So he is getting the same comments and the same treatment as his daddy, Dusty. All right. There was one lady that said, I grew up with this man. There's always that one pick-me girl. I grew up with him. He wouldn't harm a fly, dan-dee-dee-dee, and everybody came at her, and it was nuts. But obviously, drugs are a problem with these two. So keep that in mind, because this is the, and here's just the proof of the grand jury indictments. Da-da-da-da. All right, so let's keep reading. We were told by Ren, not Rhea, Ren, I'm sorry. Ren Hendrickson is the boyfriend's name. I apologize. We were told by Ren that Samantha and him showed up where Dusty lives on that Tuesday afternoon. And there may or may not have been an argument between Samantha and Ren. There may or may not have been. I'm going to go ahead and say there was. There was definitely one. Because that's just silly just to say that. Adding that Dusty claims the argument took place, but Ren's claims it didn't. So that's why. Okay. It did. Totally did. Why would Dusty say that? Why would Dad say an argument happened and the boyfriend say it didn't? Suspicious. Suspicious as Hades. That's what I think. Dusty later told police that while Ren decided to go back to Samantha's Murray, Kentucky home to spend the night, he and Samantha decided to go four-wheeling in the woods near Dusty's house. Say what? Let's read that again. Dusty later told police that while Wren decided to go back to Samantha's Murray, Kentucky home to spend the night, he and Samantha decided to go four-wheeling in the woods near Dusty's house. Huh? Why? Who are you, sir? Why would this woman want to go in the woods with his dad when she had 2 kids? Can anybody give me a reason? A rhyme or reason? I'll wait for that. I don't think we're going to get one. Okay. They became stuck in the mud close to nightfall, according to Dusty. So the two of them decided to spend the night on the four-wheeler. Okay. They left the four-wheeler running to use the heat from the engine. Oh, because four-wheelers are a great source of nice, even flow heat. It's not dangerous at all. They do this all night. The four-wheeler eventually runs out of gas, and in the morning they walk out of the woods. Dusty said he went one direction, but she went another. If anybody feels like this is a suspicious story, put it in the chat. I have a suspicious sticker. It's called the sus sticker. What say you? It's very, very sad, though, because, again, she's got 2 kids at home at this point. Samantha's sister, Kim, says she and a family member had been calling and texting Samantha's cell phone. Oh, I think I skipped something. I'm sorry. That's the last time anyone saw Samantha, per Dusty's stupid-ass story. Police say Dusty told them he didn't question why Samantha wanted to walk a different direction, because he was wet, cold, and tired from having spent the night in the woods. Samantha's sister, Kim, says she and family members had been calling and texting Samantha's cell phone, but her phone was off. Wren was looking for Samantha, too, since he hadn't returned home from four-wheeling with Dusty. Since she hadn't returned home. Oh, yeah, that's sus. It's more sus than I can ever... This is just crap. Police say later that day, after Dusty told Wren what happened, Wren placed a troubling phone call to his mama. Because you always call mama when things go down. It's just the facts. Samantha's sister... he called his mom and said he was going to unalive himself. Wren said that. Why would you want to unalive yourself? What do you have on your mind? What is bothering you? Police were told of Wren's situation to begin looking into the case. Oh, okay. Samantha's sister Kim told Dateline that her brother Tyler is a member of the volunteer fire department, and he heard the call go out and was told it was Wren and called to tell us about it. That night, search crews found an abandoned car on Dooms Chapel Road at the Kentucky 131 intersection just south of Simsonia, Kentucky. Sorry if I butchered that. Kim says Tyler became very concerned when they found out the car was Samantha's Ford Taurus. Samantha's sister Kim says the mother's worry increased even more that night when she called her work and learned she hadn't showed up at her 9 p.m. shift at McDonald's. Police told Dateline that Dusty also called them Wednesday evening to say Samantha was missing. By this point, it was dark, so police didn't look any further for Wren till the next morning. That was a mistake. That was a big mistake. Hey, Earth, good to see you, hun. Bad. Oh, I hate botchy-ass investigations from the jump, don't you? Grinds my gears. Police explained to Dateline that they have had interactions with Wren before, obviously, where he was violent and armed, so they held off searching for him until daylight on Thursday. That day, police posted on Facebook to say, whoops, I clicked it. My bad. I wasn't ready for that. Oh, there is Wren, by the way. this cup of tea. That day, police posted on Facebook to say an investigation was underway to locate both Ren and Samantha during ground searches. Police say police also located the four-wheeler that was stuck in that mud, Dusty says he and Samantha spent the night on earlier that week. They found the keys to Samantha's car on the ground, but were unable to find any evidence of foul play. Okay. Or anything that would lead them to locate Samantha or Ren. We're in a wooded area, a swamp. In March, almost into April, muggy. Wildlife is out. This is not good. All right. It's not like going to a crime scene at home or building where evidence would be easily seen or noticed. That's what the chief deputy sheriff said. We're in a wooded area in a swamp. It's not like, you go over here to a building or concrete or something. Wow. So because it's not easily seen or noticed, not going to really look into it more. I call bullshit. That Sunday, April 1st, police say Ren walked up to his father's house of his own accord looking for help. He was dehydrated and hypothermic and was transported to a local hospital for treatment of his injuries. What injuries? A Graves County Sheriff's Office news release said Samantha wasn't with him. The chief deputy sheriffs told Dateline police have questioned Ren and Dusty multiple times about Samantha's disappearance and said both men passed polygraph tests on the subject. Did they? We shall see. Samantha's sister Kim, you have to remember drugs, okay? Samantha's sister Kim says Samantha had recently separated from her husband and shares joint custody of their kids with him. So here's the angle. I don't want this. No. Sorry. These news article places piss me off. It's always some ad that you can't click off of. Damn it. One moment. Okay. So they passed polys. Samantha's sister Kim says they had recently separated, shares joint custody of their kids with ex-hubby. They interviewed the husband and Samantha's mother and stepfather multiple times, but haven't learned any significant information from those interviews. Kim believes foul play is involved in her sister's disappearance. Yeah. She couldn't have gotten lost in the woods. We are out in the woods all the time. This is our hometown. She couldn't have got lost. So police have since executed search warrants on both Samantha and Dusty's homes, but were unable to find anything of significance. However, 1 week later, a Murray police officer did find blood in an undisclosed part of Samantha's house. Okay. Now, accidents happen in your own home. Just because blood is there doesn't mean, it just depends how much blood and all that stuff. We don't know that. Not yet anyway. So samples of blood were taken and all that was sent to the lab. At this point, we don't have anything back on that. And we don't know when we will get results back on that. Family members and authorities have also since worked with several search and rescue groups and K-9 teams to search the Kaler Bottoms area where Samantha was last seen. Real quick, this is just kind of an introduction to this case. There is way more. A lot has happened since then. I just want you guys to get the nitty-gritty of it. I want you to see the area, and I have a video to show you. And again, thank you for being here so late with me. About to wrap it up soon. So, four-wheeler, it kind of reminds me of the Summerwells case with the motorcycles and the four-wheelers. I thought about that. Something just to keep in mind. All right. So that's a very dense wooded area. Wow. That's pretty thick. Oh, yeah. But there's a little path here, looks like. So it's not uncommon for people to maybe go in and out of here. I don't know. There's the river. There's like a little ravine here. Interesting. So, wow, look at that. That's a lot of acreage to cover. And when you're doing math, it might be very possible to have the wherewithal, or at least the fake energy and strength to get out here and do some nefarious shit. Right? He said that they used the four-wheeler for heat and the gas ran out. Methinks the gas ran out because he went a very long way. A very long way. And didn't make it back because he went a very long way. All right. Who knows? Good Lord. I want to know how thorough these searches were, or if it was just along the bank here. She's more than likely there. All right. They didn't have any physical evidence at this time to show Samantha went missing under suspicious circumstances. I mean, come on. Do we feel that it smells bad? It looks funny? Yes, he said, but what we have right now is just a missing persons case. I hate when I hear that. It happens way too often. Kim told Dateline she is hoping for the best, but knows she has to be realistic about the situation. I don't think my sister will come home safe and alive. She would have contacted us by now. She wouldn't have done this to us. Really sad. So Samantha is described as being 5'6", 125 pounds, hazel eyes and blonde hair, and was last seen wearing gray sweatpants and a hoodie, which is definitely something that people who are in that area or whoever goes back there needs to be looking for. Anyone with information on Samantha's whereabouts, call the Grave County Sheriff's Office at this number. I am so sorry to the family who is having to deal with this still to this day. Real quick before I leave, I want you guys to see what the family has to say about Samantha and where they're at now. She has been gone since March of 2018. Yeah, they're really sad. Oh, I'm still waiting to get into that Facebook. Hold on. I'll play that video for you in just a second to kind of give you like the aerial view of this. Octavia scams are not a family member, but she says, I looked up the entire story. Come on now. It's clear to see who was involved, right? Right? Agreed. This is a mother. You know, this is a family member. This is two kids who have no answers, who had their lives changed forever in overnight, that they will never have their childhood with their mother. This case needs to be solved. It needs to be solved. And it can happen. Wow. Is that the house? Good Lord. I mean, we could probably tell what their proclivities were. There's the cemetery that's kind of to, I think, the east of the area where she was last known to be. Wow. So sad. Lots of comments here. I'm not going to read them, but definitely check it out if you want to. There's a lot of comments from family within these comments that are, it's just heartbreaking. Yeah, there have been unidentified remains that have popped up around Graves County, which is kind of scary. That were not shown to be hers. Oh, this is an update. They thought that these remains were Lynette McCollum, I guess a missing person. I can only assume that Lynette is still listed and these remains are still listed because that wasn't conclusive. Definitely going to call tomorrow and see if NamUs has an update on that and Graves County Sheriff, because you know your girl Eve will call. Absolutely no problem. That was very recent. That was a week and a half ago. We'll see what they say. So there was one post. I cannot remember the name of this person, but they said, we are so sick and tired of getting the runaround, basically. And we don't know why we get tips from people and locals all the time. Yet we still do not have answers and we still do not have police calling us, giving us updates, because these are lead-worthy tips and they don't do shit. And it's really upsetting because don't put tips in with the mother or grandmother or family members. But maybe that's because they don't feel like anybody's listening. Maybe Graves County isn't doing their job purposefully. It's behind them, beyond them. They don't care. So if she is stating, whoever this person is, if she's stating that she's not getting answers, but getting tips from people around the suspects or who know maybe or heard something, it's time to answer for that. This is a cold case, and you and the community deserve answers. So I'll let you know how that goes. I will definitely let you know how that goes tomorrow. Also, before we leave, before I wrap up, please, please, please do not miss the Jerks Live tomorrow, because if you want to see from the beginning of Summerwell's case who was involved in the fuck shit and the misinformation, okay, all right, you need to watch this. So please be there. Please be at the live. It's at 5 p.m. on March 22nd, which is tomorrow. I'm going to put the link in the chat. That title is everything. That title is everything. Put it in the chat, pin it. Go hit that notification bell. Like and subscribe to The Jerks. They are awesome. They're all hilarious and informative. I knew, Brooke, OG Mod, you would love this. So definitely check it out. A lot of things may make sense to those who have been here from the beginning in Summerwell's case and or around this creator. I would love to see what the reading is after this comes out on a channel that rhymes with Zimpress. Okay. Maybe I should do my own. Maybe I should do my own reading. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm so sorry about the content not being uploaded. I am working on it. Your girl Eve is working on it. But you know, as I say, drink your water, hug yourself, your babies, fur babies, grandbabies. Samantha Sperry needs justice now for her and her family. So share that message and share this live. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.